Parents meet their adopted daughter 22 years after leaving her with this note. In the summer of 1996, Ken and Ruth Poehler of Hudsonville, Michigan were taken to the Suzhou orphanage in China, where they met their adoptive daughter Katie for the first time. But a note left by the girl's biological parents would come back to haunt them years later. The United States is home to over 80,000 children who were adopted from China since official records started in 1999. 85% of those kids are female. But how did Katie Poehler from Michigan fit into this demographic? From 1979 to 2016, China enforced a child policy that forced many families to abandon their baby girls, or worse, so they could have a boy. Fortunately, that's no longer the case, but for Poehler, that policy change came too late. China didn't allow foreigners to adopt from their orphanages until 1992. But it was in the summer of 1996 that the Poehler family visited an orphanage in Suzhou and fell in love with a baby girl named Genji. And soon, she ceased to exist. The Poehlers were an evangelical Christian couple from Hudsonville, Michigan, with 2 biological sons. Soon, those boys would end up with a little sister. But the family wondered why anyone would have abandoned such a precious girl. And then they read the note. The baby's name was included in a note her father, Zhu, wrote and left with her in a market. It read, "Our daughter, Xinji, was born at 10 a.m. on the 24th of the 7th month of the lunar calendar, 1995. We have been forced by poverty and affairs of the world to abandon her." He hoped he would see her again someday. But would he get that chance? Genji became Katie Poehler, and she was raised in a predominantly white community in Michigan, but never felt like an outcast growing up. And although everyone knew she was adopted, no one ever really asked her about it. But did she ever wonder about her roots? Her childhood was so solid that she never felt the need to go digging into her ethnic background, and she continued to follow in her adopted family's tradition by going to the religious Calvin College in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But would her beliefs stop her from having fun? It turns out that Christian girls want to have fun just like everyone else. This was great because Grand Rapids is known for having one of the best craft beer scenes in the country, and she didn't allow her beliefs to get in the way of having fun. But something changed when she turned 21. Once she reached the age of womanhood, she made some offhand remarks to her mother about it being time she knew about her roots. The Poehlers knew a lot about their origins, but were concerned that telling her the truth would warp her normal upbringing. But it was preventing her from knowing her biological family. The note Zhu had written included hope for a possible reunion. It read, "If we are brought together by fate, then let us meet again on the Broken Bridge in Hangzhou on the morning of the Qixi Festival in 10 or 20 years from now." But the first reunion didn't go as expected, and it wasn't the Poehlers' fault. In 2005, the Poehlers asked a friend in China to visit the Broken Bridge on the day mentioned on the note. They wanted their daughter's biological parents, Zhu and Qian, to know that their daughter was being looked after. But did they leave their contact details? The Poehlers didn't want their friend to give Zhu and Qian their contact information, not that it would have helped. The 2 parties missed each other on the bridge. Fortunately, a Chinese man living in Pennsylvania allowed them to connect. But the Poehlers were firm on one thing. Chengcheng Fu became a bridge of communication between the Chinese parents and the Poehlers. But the Poehlers asked Cheng Fu to tell the biological family that they would not tell their daughter the truth unless she asked. And then, one day, she did. It was the summer of 2016, and Poehler's adoptive parents told her about the secret note that her biological father, Zhu, wrote in brush and ink. She was upset that they'd kept this from her. 1 year later, she went to the Broken Bridge to find her biological parents. But did they show up? On the evening of the Qixi Festival, Qian and Zhu were finally reunited with their adult, healthy college student daughter. And much to Poehler's surprise, she discovered that she had a biological older sister named Zhao Chen. But they weren't alone on the bridge. A television crew was at Broken Bridge to capture their tear-jerking moment, and the footage was used in a BBC documentary. But there was a major obstacle standing in all of their ways, which became clear when they tried talking to each other. There was a major language barrier in the way. But neither of them walked away. She even stayed in her parents' flat with her biological sister for a few days, so they could bond and get to know each other. But there was something weighing heavily on their minds. When Post magazine visited Qian and Zhu at their home in Hangzhou, China, Qian was quoted telling the magazine, "We still feel so much guilt. If we hadn't abandoned her, she wouldn't have had to suffer so." But why wasn't Qian happy about their daughter's upbringing? Qian found no comfort in the fact that their daughter was raised in a middle-class suburban home in America. In fact, she was shocked that Polar worked in a greenhouse to earn extra cash while in college. But had the encounter with her biological parents changed her? Before she met Qian and Zhu, Polar felt that her Asian roots were limited to her physical appearance. But after meeting her biological family, she felt a deeper, albeit confusing, connection within her background. But would a few more trips make her embrace her heritage? After graduating college, Polar returned to China to spend some more time with her Chinese family. She arrived at the Mid-Autumn Festival, which is the country's equivalent to Thanksgiving in the United States. But some things had changed. Polar's parents closed their secondhand business, and her biological sister Zhao Chen had a boyfriend named Kevin who joined them for dinner. There was a lot of talking, and Polar did her best with her beginner-level Mandarin. And there was even more great news for her biological family. Polar took a job in China's Huan City, where she would teach English as a foreign language for a year. But she still hadn't figured out what she was going to call her biological parents. She knew she could call Zhao Chen her sister in Mandarin because she didn't have a sister in America. But she doesn't call her birth parents mom and dad because her parents are the Polars. But there's one concern in her and Zhu and Qian's minds. Zhu asked her if she resented them for giving her up. She reassured them both over and over that she had no issues with them because she had a great childhood. And now she had two families in different parts of the world.